Hello, let's create a small application in React with some small components. I have here an application created with npx create react app command. The application is running in the browser on this port, and let's make some changes here. I'll delete this default code from app.js, and also I delete this default code from app CSS. From app.js I delete the logo, the import for the logo, because we don't need it. And here I add h1 with the text hello world. Let's test this in the browser. And in the browser we can see our text, the hello world text. Now let's create some components. In the source folder, I'll create another folder with the name components. And here I'll create some new files for some new components. So I have form.js, and here in form.js let's create a folder with the name form. So I have the folder form. Here I have the form.js file, and in the form.js file I create a component. A component is created with the keyword function. We can create an arrow function, but now I'll use this notation with the keyword function. And also we need to put the name for the component. We need to export the component, so I have a export default form, and in this component I have a return which returns some JSX code. So I have a form tag. In the form tag I have input with the type text and a placeholder, and in the placeholder I have the text type your name. Okay, and also in the form I have a button with the text submit. In this form folder I'll create a CSS file, and in this CSS file I'll style my button. So for my button I have the background color black, and for the text from the button I have the color white. And in my component I import my CSS file. So I import form CSS. Okay, so this is my first component. Now I go in app CSS. I delete this hello world. In React, return needs to have a single element. So we need a parent for all our elements. I'll add this. This is valid syntax here in JSX. And here I'll put my form. And I need to import my form from, so I need to have import form from components form. Okay, and now if I go in the browser, I have a error search. S is not defined, so I have a S. So I have a S here. Now it should work. So this is my form. So I created a form component, and in the main app component I added the form component. Let's create another component. I'll go again in the components folder and I'll create a component with the name header. For this I have another folder with the name header. In this folder I have a header.js file and also a header CSS file. In the header.js file I have another function for my header component. I need to export this component, so I have export default header. I have the return, and for my header let's use h1 with the text. So I'll put the text my app header, and in the CSS file I'll add a rule for my h1 to put a color brown. Let's use the brown color. Now let's add this component in app CSS. So I'll add the header here. And also now I need to import my header component from components header. Okay, let's test now. And we can see that now we have two components, our header component and our form component with our form. Okay, let's create another component. Now I'll create a component with the name image. And in this folder I have a image.js file and image CSS file. In the image.js file I have a function for my component. So function image. Oh, so I wrote the code in the image CSS. I need to put a code in image.js. So I have function image. I need to export this component, so I have export default image, and also I need to put the return for my component. So for this component I'll add an image, so I'll add the image tag with the attribute src, and I'll add the URL from placeholder.com with an image. Let's add also some CSS for this component, so I'll go in the image CSS file and I add a rule for my image tag. So let's add a margin of 15 pixels. Let's import this CSS file. So here I add the import image CSS, and I forgot to add the import for the header CSS file in the header component. So here also I need to add import header CSS. Now let's go in the app.js file And here in the app.js file, let's add our image component. And also let's import it to use it in this component. So I need to import image from components, image file. Now let's test. And we can see our image from the placeholder.com added in our application. And also now we can see our header with the brown color. In React, we can add multiple components. So let's copy this image component, and now we need to have two image components in our app file.